All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. It's going to be a quick lesson, on the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. I came across this post the other day, which this particular thing that it mentions, it's not anything new, but, it's starting to become more and more common. It says Sweden implants microchips in thousands of people to replace IDs, credit cards, keys, and wallets, right? And as you can see, the caption reads, should America do this? When that isn't the right question to ask. Should America do this? It's not should it do it. When will they do it? Because it's not an if thing, it's a when, because this is the major prophecy that we're waiting for before the destruction comes to pass, So it says, should America do this? Thousands of people in Sweden have voluntarily, keyword, had tiny RFID/NFC chips, microchips implanted under their skin, usually in the hand, as part of a niche biohacking trend aimed at convenience. And that's exactly what it is. They're going to market it to people as it's something convenient, just like they said to, for people to replace credit cards, keys, to gain access to, certain places, But keep going. It says these chips, about the size of a grain of rice, can be used to access offices, replace keys, or store train tickets and other digital information. It says estimates suggest roughly 3,000 to 6,000 Swedes have adopted the technology since around 2014, making it far from widespread. Says the implants are passive. They only work when scanned at close range, don't track location, and are not required by the government, contrary to some viral claims. Now, that's a lie, because those microchips can be tracked. They're just telling these people that just to make them feel better. But right now, just like it says, it's voluntary. So, people are over there in Sweden alone are willingly, getting these devices implanted, into their hands primarily, before it becomes mandatory, because eventually it will be a requirement by the government, and not just here in America, not just over there in Sweden, but it's going to be a worldwide thing. All of these different nations that have, their particular currencies, they're all going to do away with, physical currency, this paper money, and what are they going to do? They're going to issue that CBDC, that central bank digital currency. So all of these nations are in league with each other when it comes to this particular thing, the mark of the beast, this system, which everything is going to be tied to the internet, and there's been a lot of videos coming out lately about this particular subject because, again, it's upon us. It's not coming, it's here. It's just a matter of time when they're going to implement this thing, because they also have, the Hanta, the H virus going around, we'll see what happens with that, but a lot of things are taking place, man. But this is one of the major prophecies that are going to come to pass, and it is. And right now it's voluntary, but eventually it will become mandatory. So getting straight to the point, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And right, excuse me. And if I'm not mistaken, the word right hand or hand, goes into dextrose, just, it means your whatever hand. So let me see. Yeah, right hand, or dexios. Yeah, Dexios. It says, the right hand. So, it can go in either hand, whichever, most people, are right-handed, but, even people that are left-handed, they're going to get it in either hand. You know, it's just going to go in their hands in general. It's going to be implanted, in between the index finger and the thumb, you know. It says, and then the forehead, meaning they're going to get these devices implanted into their heads. A prime example of this would be, the Neuralink, where you have people that are, completely paralyzed from the neck down that have gotten this device that have been able to, move, again, or play video games with their mind, or, to text, thought to speech, you know. This is how they're going to market it, as it's something convenient, when in reality, convenience kills, man. These people don't realize is that they're just signing up to be, corporate slaves, to be digital slaves, man, because that's going to be even worse than, what we're suffering now, man, because they're going to be able to control, how much money you make, what you're spending your money on, what you can and cannot spend your money on, right now, while this system is still up and running, while the dollar, is still has some value, even though it's worthless, you can still do private transactions, which is what the American government is trying to crack down on, because they want to keep track of everything that we're doing. And they said that, oh, well, they can't track, these people by GPS location. Of course they can, don't be deceived. They can track your every movement, if they can track us by, our cell phones, Wi-Fi, our vehicles, what makes you think they can't track these people by these microchips? They're going to be able to know what you're doing at all times, man. So, yeah, that whoever made that comment, they were incorrect on that part, because they can be tracked. Those people are being tracked. And I wouldn't be surprised if, again, those people are just, the test run, to see how it goes before they implement this thing primarily here in America, man, because this is the main place where it's going to be pushed worldwide, So verse 17, it says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And right, that's how people are going to be able to buy and sell, unless they have that chip, because again, all, future currency is going to be digital, whatever name they give it, that's how you're going to be able to buy and sell, fiat currency is going to be done away with, even if you have gold and silver, you're still not going to be able to survive, after this society collapses, and they set up these, smart cities. We'll see exactly how far they go with their New World Order, but we'll see, it's like I kind of, lost my train of thought, but we'll see how far they go. But overall, everything is going to be connected. That's how you're going to be able to buy and sell. You won't be able to survive unless you have that chip, which is why we're depending on the Lord to get us through these tough times, that we're in and that we're approaching, because things are going to get worse, because those that refuse to get this, device are going to be outcasted. Those that aren't outcasted, they're going to, haul off to concentration camps to be put to death, man. And that's going to be, some of us, that's going to be our lot, to be beheaded, and that's just fine. Verse 18, it says, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. And his number is 666. And right, which, that goes back to the UPC code, because everything, every product that we have has that barcode, which the first bar is a 6, the middle bar is a 6, and the last bar. Everything that Esau does goes back to that number, which the number 6 isn't bad, but, that's what this man is doing. He's going to cause people to get it. He's not going to force anyone, but he's going to make things extremely difficult, for the people here in America to live, that, they're going to, want to get it, So that's how he's going to cause the people to get it, man, because the famine is being orchestrated. The cost of fuel is, continually rising, which by default, is going to make it more difficult for, goods to be brought in, to the grocery stores, even from, the different countries that import goods here, because fuel is going to be expensive, or fuel already is expensive, but it's going to be more expensive. Right now we're dealing with inflation. Eventually that inflation is going to turn into hyperinflation, and things are only going to get worse, and then again, those that say the mark of the beast is anything other than the RFID microchip, they're incorrect, because again, this is a physical thing. It's not spiritual. It's literal, something that is literally going to be implanted into people's hands and foreheads, man, which is why it says this in the book of Revelation, chapter 16 and verse 2. It says, "And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them that worshipped his image." All right, what is that? That grievous sore? It's going back to cancer. Why? Because that device is going to be emitting radiation, because your body is going to reject it. We aren't supposed to, just like it says, in the law, we ain't supposed to make any markings or cuttings in our flesh. But what people's bodies are going to reject this device, because again, you weren't supposed to have anything implanted up under your skin, but that's how that chip is going to operate, is going to, run off of that person's body heat, so therefore it's going to emit radiation, as if, these cell phones that we have don't, emit enough radiation already. That's that grievous sore that people are going to get. And we'll see, when that time comes, what exactly it's going to look like, but just like when you look up that word, I think sore, it goes back to what? Helcos, which is what, a pus, an ulcer, a discharge, we'll see exactly how it looks again, when that time comes, because people are going to get it. These American people are going to willingly, get this thing, man, because they're going to want to continue living in this society. The main thing is that they're going to want to eat, man, and these Americans, they don't have, the discipline, man. They eat multiple times a day, man. That's mainly what is pushed heavily here in America, man. Gluttony, which is why a lot of people are going to die of the famine, but I just wanted to do a quick lesson on that, post that I seen. I'm going to come back, and do, response to a couple other videos I seen, a couple brothers do, on this topic. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say, Shalom.